Hey guys, it's Liz from the Nail Hub, and today I am excited to share with you some tips and tricks on getting faster at doing nails. I have seen this be probably one of the top questions that people get asked on the internet, whether you're like a public figure in the nail industry or just even being an educator, things like that. I see a lot of the questions around timing coming up on social media and across different classes and platforms that I've seen. So I wanted to address this from my approach and see if this is helpful to you. So getting faster is definitely one of those stressful areas of learning how to do nails. Obviously, when we first start doing nails, our skill set is not really up to par necessarily with what we're trying to achieve. And that is something that comes with time. So the first thing I wanted to say is that it is important to give yourself a little bit of breathing room when it comes to getting faster, because it is something that naturally happens over time as you get better skilled and more familiar with your products, and you get into kind of that zone, that comfort level, that ability to do things with your eyes closed. Once you get that muscle memory going with doing nails and you get that familiarity with what you're doing, speed is going to be something that does come with that. But there are some very specific things that I'd like to recommend that will help you nail down how to get faster in every single area of your services. Now, why is timing so important? I wanted to talk about that as well. Timing is really important because when we talk about pricing, our pricing is not as simple as just saying, these are all of my costs per service, and then I'm going to tack on an extra amount of money on top of that. It doesn't work that way. I know that the industry always talks about cost per service, cost per service, cost per service, but it's more than cost per service. We have to take our cost per service and we have to balance that against what is our marketplace willing to bear. Yes, we can push that with things like being in a specific niche, having very high demand, being really good at what we do. All of those things can help affect that. But at the end of the day, there is going to be a cap on what we can realistically charge for a given service. Then we're going to take that and we're also going to bounce it against our profitability, which time has a big impact on our profitability. Even if we have perfect cost per service and we have the perfect price for our marketplace, if we as the service provider are not able to provide that service in the time frame that allows us to make a profit, we are going to be losing money during the service, even if our pricing was absolutely perfect to begin with. Okay, so let's use an example. A gel polish manicure. A gel polish manicure, usually if it's a basic, and I'm talking super basic gel polish manicure where you're doing removal and then a 3-step application as far as base, color, top coat, and then you're going to have that person come back in a couple weeks and do it all over again. Usually the goal for a gel polish manicure is something like 45 to 60 minutes. You might see people talking about 20-30 minute gel polish manicures. Does not exist. And yes, maybe you can figure out a way to do that, but I am not in the business of trying to teach people how to get into extremes. I really like teaching people how to be moderate, how to actually function within the normal bell curve of what exists in our industry, and how to be consistent and successful. So typically a gel polish manicure will take you, like I said, somewhere between 45 and 60 minutes. Usually that 15-minute difference is depending on how much removal you have to do beforehand, because the actual prep and application usually takes about 45 minutes, and then removal is going to tack on about 15, maybe 20 minutes more than that. Okay, so based on all of my analysis I've done on salons and looking at profitability and looking at all these things, you need to be essentially making $1 a minute in order for you to be making money on a service. Yes, there are lots of things that can swing that out of place, but on average, I would say $1 a minute is a great metric for you to have in your brain when it comes to, I need this service to take no longer than 60 minutes and I should be charging something in the ballpark of $60, okay? So if it takes me 45 minutes to do it, give or take, I would want to, price that at $45. I would probably push that so that even if it only takes me 45 minutes to do, I'm charging something like $50, $55, $60. And that way your tip on top of that, if you get gratuity from the client, is complete gravy on top of that. What happens is a lot of people are charging something like $35 for a gel polish manicure and then praying to the gods that someone tips them so that they're actually able to make the amount of money that they need to make to actually be profitable on a gel polish manicure. And I like using gel polish manicures because they're very, very run of the mill. They're very they're not drastically cheap, but they are one of the cheaper services and one of the faster services that a lot of nail technicians do. And they're one of the more basic services that we all do. So it's just a good example. It can get way more complex than this, but it's a great starting point. So if you are, and again, cost per service when it comes to the products that you might use or the equipment that you might use, it all kind of averages out to the same thing. Typically what I've seen is cost per service. Usually if you're using a new nail file and you're using a 3-step gel system and you're doing all these different things and you're going to come up with something like $7 per service is what it's going to cost you to do a gel polish manicure. Tack on top of that some of your overhead, like how much that, your rent you'd be paying for the hour that you were with this gel polish client, and the lighting and the, all your electricity, whatever, your water bill, whatever you might pay for, unless it's all included. Those are the things that kind of go into that cost per service number. But usually your actual product costs are somewhere in the $7 range if you're using a nice product. And then you're going to tack on some extra expenses up beyond that. So if you're charging something like $35 for a gel polish manicure, one, realistically, I've never seen someone that's actually, able to make a profit on a $35 gel polish manicure. Two, it's very difficult to do a gel polish manicure in 35 minutes. You're going to be wasting money on, the timing part of it. And yes, it might be cheap and you might be in super high demand for gel polish manicures, but if you're not making money on any of them, even if you're doing 1,000 gel polish manicures a week, if you're not making money on them, it's not worth it. So I would recommend that you take a look at your pricing. I do have some specific videos on my Nail Business Fundamentals playlist that you can look at as to how pricing works. And also how you can eliminate a lot of wear and tear on your body by pricing your services at appropriate levels. So once we address the pricing portion of it, and again, that dollar a minute is going to be a good metric for you in your brain, I would argue that even if you are in a small town, even if you are in these different areas where your pricing might be a little bit different, I would say the bare bones minimum for a gel polish manicure should be something like $50. And if it is $50, you're really going to need to focus on your pricing when it comes to your cost per service and also your timing. But realistically, I would say, from everything that I've seen across the country, it's going to be somewhere between $50 to $65 is a standard gel polish manicure. And then of course it goes up from there depending on how complex the service is. If you're using, doing a massage or something, or using different overlay products and you're not actually soaking off. Again, the sky's the limit with customizations, but baseline, that's what you're going to be looking at. Okay, so that means that I need to be able to basically do a gel polish manicure service within that 45 to 60 minute window. And I want you to actually time yourself. If you're not actually able to do it within an hour and you find yourself going over every single time, what we're going to do is we're actually going to use a timer. So I have this nifty little timer that I bought on Amazon that I'd like to show you guys. I will put the link to it down below this video in case you want to get this exact same one. I really like this one because one, it's rechargeable. I can plug it in and it will go all day long. It has a little stand on the back. It also has a little hook that I can hang it on a wall. It has huge, easily visible numbers, so I can actually put this all the way across the room if I want to, behind my client's head, or I can put it on my desk, or I can put it wherever I want, and I can actually glance at it and see how am I doing on time. So maybe you're used to glancing at a clock to see what time it is. I want you to start getting used to checking your timer to see how long you've spent on the appointment thus far, okay? So this one's very cool. It has countdowns. You can do an hour, 5 minutes, a minute, a second. You can do a custom. You can do just a start-stop timer, so you can turn it on and have it count up. And it also has an alarm on it. You could use this for everything from doing your actual appointment check-ins to, if you're doing your liquid disinfectant, you want to time things for however much time they need to be in there for with your tools and stuff. This is a very handy one, and I like that it's cordless. I can put it anywhere, and it's big. Like I said, as I start to go blind as I get older, this will come in very handy. And then second, I want you to actually record these times. Now, it depends on your ability to multitask which one you're going to implement. Now, you can do one of two things. You can put this timer somewhere where it's easily visible, maybe behind your curing lamp. If you've got curing lamps on either side of your nail desk, you could put this right there where you can kind of glance at it as your client starts to cure their nails, or you can glance at it, maybe it's off to the side where you've got your brushes or your tools or whatever, you can glance at it. So if you're able to multitask and you're able to glance at it and then maybe you're able to take a second and write down the time, you could do that. The other alternative would be to record yourself while you work. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this would look like. So here is my nail desk. Sorry for the flicker because it's just the LEDs and the timer are not going to be well balanced with the frame rate of my camera. So what you can do is you can put this on your desk. Let me prop this up just a little bit so it doesn't make a reflection. Okay, so you can put this within the frame of your camera. This could be, obviously this is my studio camera, but this camera could actually just be my iPhone or whatever phone you use. Get yourself a phone clamp, and I actually have one. Let me zoom out a little bit. I actually have one here. So you can put a phone clamp or something on your nail desk. You can have like a bar that goes across, whatever you want to do. Duct tape your phone to your lamp or whatever that you use for lighting. I want you to actually record yourself working, because recording yourself working is actually going to show you what you are doing during the appointment. One of the biggest reasons why we are slow at our services is that we don't actually know what we're doing during the service. So the biggest key to improving your time is to, one, gain awareness about what you are actually doing during the service, okay? So a timer is the key to actually being able to break your service down into chunks and understand where am I wasting too much time. So within a specific service, usually there are 4 main chunks of time that we use within a given service. We have our removal time, we have our nail prep time, we have our application time, and then usually we have something that comes after, whether that be finish filing, for example, with a little bit of application at the end, or maybe we have spa services that we want to do at the end of the application. Like let's say we're doing gel polish. I'm going to do removal of the gel polish. I'm going to prep the natural nails. I'm going to apply the gel polish. And then maybe I'm going to do some kind of spa service for that person at the very end of the appointment. If it was artificial nails, it might be, again, rebalancing, prepping the natural nail, then some product application, then finish filing, and then more product application afterwards. So it depends on the specific service, but if we're looking at it at a very 30,000 foot view level, it'll be something like 4 chunks of time. I do find that there are some specific areas that people usually, after doing these kinds of consulting projects with multiple people, I have found that the number one time waster is nail prep. Nail prep is usually where people get really hung up during the service. And it's usually because we are nervous about using things like cuticle nippers. We are trying to get an really, really high expectation level of cleanliness on the nail plate because of the influence of social media. And we see these beautifully done Russian manicured nails with not a single stitch of skin anywhere. And it's just perfect, perfect, perfect. Could be on the cover of a magazine type of nails. A lot of us take that ideal into our super basic services and we go, oh, that's what I should be doing for these clients. So I do find that nail prep is usually one of the areas that most people are wasting most of their time on. But it can vary. Maybe you're someone who takes forever on removal. Maybe you take way too much time during product application. So the key, like I said, is being aware of where you are wasting time. Because once you're aware of where you're wasting time, then you can start to address it. And I wrote down some other key time wasters here. So definitely is going to be identifying which part of the service you're wasting time on. 2 is going to be when you film yourself, and this is why I highly recommend filming yourself. Like you can even use a phone stand like this. If you guys want me to, put a recommendation here. I like this one because it doesn't have like a clamp. It just sits on my table and I can, do portrait or landscape mode. But oftentimes what I will do is instead of actually having an overhead view of what I'm doing, I will put this off to the side. So I'll put it like literally like right, let me see if I can show you. I'll put it like diagonally off to the side and a little bit angled down so I can see like, my hands and everything, and I can also see my head. The reason why is because I want to see how many times I pick my head up during the service. As you start working more and more and more, you should be getting more comfortable with talking to your client like this all the time. When I was working full-time as a nail technician, I was always with my head down. I hardly ever made eye contact with my clients, unless it was something where I needed to, say something or pat them on the hand or whatever. But most of the time, my head was glued at a 45-degree angle and I was focused on doing the actual appointment. If you are someone who is looking up every time you talk to your client, you would be surprised how much time gets wasted just by picking up your head, because every time you pick up your head, I bet you anything, you stop what you're doing. It's very difficult to pick your head up and make eye contact and talk to someone and also continue to work, because you are no longer looking at the hands. You are no longer looking at what you're doing. Okay, so picking up your head is a big one. Reaching and looking for tools or products is another big time waster. If you are recording yourself and you see that throughout the appointment, you're kind of always like digging through drawers, or you're like, oh, I can't find my cuticle pusher, or I dropped my bit and I don't know where the other ones are. If you're finding yourself struggling to find things during the appointment and you're like, oh, okay, and you have to drop the person's hand and then go rummage through all your stuff to find things, to me, that is something that you should absolutely address by reorganizing your nail table. Definitely have backup tools so that if you drop something on the floor, you can easily just grab another one. You don't have to be, rummaging through drawers. Make sure that things like base and top coats that you use 24/7 are within reach. Your cleanser, your wipes, all of that stuff that you're going to need 50 million times during the day are right there in a spot, and keep them in the same spot of your nail desk so that even if you're not looking, you can reach for something and you know it's going to be there. So desk organization is extremely important when it comes to timing. I do find that that is something that a lot of people don't consider. And when I watch them actually do nails, I'm like, wow, you are really struggling to find what you need during the appointment. That can add on minutes and minutes and minutes. And it is a little bit shocking to see how much it can add to an overall service time. And like I said, nail prep is definitely going to be something that a lot of people just spend a bunch of time on. So how, once you become aware of this, right, I want you to not only do this once, I want you to do this for a period of time. And you might go, well, why? Why would I do it for a period of time? So the first time that you time yourself is going to be a very, very bad recording of what it's actually going to be, because one, you're going to be nervous. Two, you're going to be trying to actually like manage looking at the timer or figuring out how to write down times. You're going to need to learn how to actually work with a timer going down, clicking on while you're working. You're also going to need to get used to filming yourself and kind of have that fade into the background and not be thinking about your camera while you're working. So the first few times that you record yourself, or that you write down times, or that you have your timer running, and again, you don't have to record yourself on video, but I do highly recommend it. It will reveal a lot about what you're doing during your actual appointment when you watch yourself back. The first few times will be very awkward. So I want you to get over that awkwardness, and I want you to get into just kind of this flow. Because that flow, as you record down these times of how much you're spending on each given segment of the appointment, are going to allow you to get a better baseline average of what the real situation is, okay? So you can easily just watch yourself back. And what you're going to do is you're going to put like the date, you could put the date or whatever. So it could be January 15th. So I'm going to start with something like removal time. I'm going to do prep time. I'm going to do application time. I could do finish filing. This is also another area where, especially if you're into doing artificial enhancements, that is something that can absolutely take up a bunch of time. And then maybe I'm going to have, top coat / finishing. Like, for example, you could do, I don't know, whatever you do at the end, or you could have nail art, something like that, or maybe a nail art is going to fit into here somewhere, however you do your services. And then you could also have spa stuff down below, depending on how you do that, okay? So then what we can do is we can add times to this. So once you watch yourself back and you've recorded your timer on camera, right, you're going to be able to stop the video and go, oh, this is how much time it was after I finished removal. So you're going to watch the recording back, or you're going to write it down as soon as you finish that section. So let's say I did 10 minutes here, and I did 15 minutes here, and I did 10 minutes here. And this is supposed to be, let's say my goal, especially pricing wise, is that this is supposed to be a 60-minute appointment. I'm already at well over half of the appointment just with these 3 steps. Okay? So this is where this becomes very, very important, because if this is taking me 25 minutes, it's eating up almost half of this appointment time, right? My prep would be eating up almost half of my appointment time. So this tells me, wow, I really need to focus on my nail prep. I need to get this time down. Because if there's 5 segments or 6 segments to this appointment, right? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say there's 6 parts. I need basically every part of the process to take 10 minutes in order to meet my 60-minute goal. Because if I'm charging $60, I need this to basically match. Now, you can charge more than this. You could charge $85 for a 60-minute appointment. I'm not saying they always have to match, but I'm worried about the situations where you guys are charging something like $35. It's actually taking you 60 minutes. This is barely covering your product costs, okay? Let's say my product costs are $7. I mean, that's like a quarter of what this is going to be. And I want to make sure that I'm able to actually pay myself, pay for all of my overhead, and be able to pay for all my product costs. And this is where people start to get into trouble. And especially if this isn't taking 60 minutes, it's taking 75 minutes for a gel polish manicure, which is probably what most of you guys are doing. This disparity is where you start to really lose money as a business, okay? So I want you to just have this dollar a minute metric in your head as just kind of a high level idea of where you are or where you should be. You can always go beyond this. You can always charge more. And also this is going to go down. So the more we practice, okay, the more we practice. So let's say at first it's 60 minutes for me to do the appointment and I'm charging $60. The goal is, as you get better with doing services, this is going to go down and this is going to go up. So maybe this goes down to 45 minutes because I'm just an absolute gel polish machine. But now I'm able to charge something like $75 because I'm a gel polish machine. And now look at this. Gives you a lot more wiggle room as a business to invest in new equipment, to move into a bigger space, to buy nicer products, to do all different kinds of things. If you've got the opposite problem where you're taking too much time and you're charging too little, it's a deep hole to dig yourself out of. Okay, so that's why the pricing and the time is so important. And that's why the self-awareness part of it is so important. So once you have an idea of where you're wasting time in the service, then you can start to go and address and practice those areas. Now, another part that goes into this practicing part is to set expectations, right? Like I was saying in the beginning of this video, where social media has impacted the expectation level that we have of what things should look like. And it's also impacted clients' perspectives to a certain extent too. But I would say that because clients really don't fully understand or are in that world, they probably aren't exposed to that as much as we are as the professionals. And I do find that it starts to kind of pervert our view of what we should be doing or what is acceptable. So a gel polish manicure, like I said, is a basic service, okay? Yes, it needs to be pretty and it needs to last and it needs to be cleanly applied and all of those wonderful things. But at the same time, we need to understand that if someone is paying me for a basic service and I'm only able to offer, let's say 50 to 60 minutes of time towards that service, they are ultimately going to get what I can offer in 50 to 60 minutes. They aren't paying me a premium. They aren't paying me for 3 hours of time. They aren't paying me for some elaborate service. They're paying me for a basic service. And it's okay to provide a well done but basic service. So that is also another area where I find people get a little unrealistic, and that's why they start wasting time within the appointment, is that they're thinking that these need to be magazine cover level nails every single appointment, but at the end of the day, the client is only paying you for a basic salon gel polish manicure. They aren't paying you for the most elite, competition level type of nails. So also bring yourself down. If you're a perfectionist and you find that, yes, I want to provide the most beautiful, perfect nails to my client, that might also be hurting you, because as salon owners and as professionals, to a certain extent, to make money at doing this, we need to be a little bit more of a factory line. Now, I'm not saying you have to be like speeding through your appointments where you're taking half an hour with every client and you feel like you're giving nothing of yourself and it's not personal and it's not beautiful and it's not well done. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about you're probably one of those extreme outliers that because of your perfectionist attitude, you are going to spend naturally too much time with each client because you're going to be trying to reach some unrealistic ideal of what the service should look like or be like. And at the end of the day, that's hurting you if you're aligning that with basic services and basic pricing. Now, if you want to grow into that as you become better in your career, if you want to grow into having some otherworldly gel polish manicure kind of service that is so custom and so amazing that you can charge $100 for it, that's wonderful. But I think for most clients looking for a gel polish manicure, they want something that takes an hour or less. They want something that costs them $60 or less. They want it to last probably 2 to 3 weeks, probably more on the 3-week end if they're paying something like $60. And their expectation level isn't magazine cover quality. It's beautiful, something that doesn't catch in their hair as it grows out, lasts the 3 weeks, is a color that they like, that their nails are shaped the right way that they like, and that's about it. Other than that, even if you spent an hour on their cuticles, I don't know that most clients would really notice the difference or care that much. And there is also something such as diminishing returns. Diminishing returns means there is a point where the lines cross, where even if you are spending more time to give a client more beautiful nails and more this and more that, their butt is going to go numb at some point. They are going to want to stand up and get out of your chair. So the diminishing returns means there is a point where the more you are trying to do, the less value the client is going to be perceiving out of it. And even if it's only $60, they're going to go, God, I can't sit here anymore. Like I'm over it. Like get me out of here. Okay. So think about diminishing returns too, because there is always a point where the lines cross, where even if you're doing more and more and more, you're not going to be able to charge more and more and more. You are going to need to stop at some point, and you need to find that sweet spot where the profitability and the time it takes and your client satisfaction all come and cross. And you've got that sweet spot right there where you're meeting or exceeding the client's expectations without going overboard. You're able to make money on the service, and you're also able to charge an amount of money that the client perceives as within the range of getting the value out of what they're getting from you, okay? So that is something that's really, really important. And if you have those custom situations where you've got a client, you know, for me, I always look at that bell curve, right? The bell curve, you know, we've got this 80% basically of everything that we do is going to fall within this range. We're going to have some outliers on either end. Maybe you have some appointments that go wicked fast because it's super easy to do this person's nails. You're going to make more money on those people because you're charging $60, but maybe it only took you 35 minutes that day. Maybe someone removed their own gel polish, but they did it really well. All you had to do was do prep and application, and boom, they're out the door, and you're still able to charge the $60, okay? On the other hand, you might have people that are on the other side of the spectrum where they come in, and every time they come in, their nails are an absolute disaster. They just trash their nails every time. That is where I was talking about in some of my previous episodes about customizing these services. So you might have a gel polish manicure on your menu that's $60, but at the end of the day, as your clients, you start to get to know your clients, they might be above that. They might need something that is customized to them. Like, hey, Sally, like you trash your nails. It takes me an hour and a half to do your nails every time. I'm going to make the Sally gel polish appointment for you that is going to be more money and more time. And that is something that needs to be customized to that individual. And it's something that you need to have a conversation with those people about, which is, hey, this is outside of the normal scope of my gel polish manicures. I need to actually spend more time on your nails in order to give you what you want. And because you're really hard on your hands, it takes me more time and more labor to get the same results with you as it does with other people. Now, you don't have to say it that harshly. I am a little bit black and white when I say things, but you get what I'm saying, which is you're going to have that customized Sally appointment for that particular person because she's really hard on her hands, and it does take you more than your normal 60-minute appointment. So even if you use the timer and you get yourself all well oiled and you're like, oh man, I have nailed this. I've got, I'm doing all my gel polish manicures in 45 minutes. I'm charging $60. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. But you've got those outlier clients that you need to spend a little bit more time on. Charge them more. It's totally acceptable to do that, okay? And like I said, at the end of the day, I hear a lot of people saying like normalize taking whatever amount of time you want on appointments. Yes and no. Yes, we should make it normal that this is something that takes time. It is something that you're not naturally going to be super speedy at. I mean, I think my first nail appointments took me something like 2.5 hours for gel polish when I first started working, and I would sweat the entire time. I was so nervous and I was trying to do my best, and at the end of the day, like, it was horrible and they would probably pop off. And it is something that just happens. It's something that you are going to get a lot of clients. You're going to lose a lot of clients in the beginning because you're not going to be good at it, but you are going to get good at it. And once you do, you are going to be able to have a lot more flexibility with time and pricing and all these amazing things. But I want you to just give yourself a little bit of wiggle room with giving yourself a little bit of grace, being compassionate with yourself. This is something that is going to naturally change over time, but you're going to be able to have so much more control over the outcome, and you're going to be such a well-oiled, amazing gel polish robot machine if you are aware of what you're doing during the appointments. And self-awareness is one of the biggest keys to success. Being able to understand what you are actually doing, not what you think you're doing, but what you are actually doing is really, really important, especially because of the physical nature of the services that we provide and the things that we just don't realize we do with our bodies or that we do within our appointment, like picking up your head, reaching for products, searching for things, or getting up in your head and spending way too much time on nail prep. All of these things are things that awareness is going to allow you to change. Okay, so first step is awareness for sure. Like I said, I'll put links down below to the timer, to my phone stand, whatever else you want to see from me. I hope these tips really help to explain how to get faster at services, that it's okay to not be fast at services, and also that having this level of awareness is going to really, really make a serious improvement. It's going to allow you to make a focused change on your appointments. I will be in touch again with another episode soon. Hope you guys all are amazing. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.